Welcome back, Algebra 2. This is the second day of 3.3, completing the square. Now remember that our completing the square is to try to get a perfect square trinomial. So keep in your mind, how can you complete the square for a quadratic expression is the essential question here. Okay, so I want you to think back to when we were working with vertex form. So y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Now remember, the vertex is coming from hk. Now what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square and we can get it into vertex form. So notice that we're given a standard form equation of a parabola, and we want to put that in vertex form, and the way that you can do that is by completing the square. So start off, and instead of saying y equals, we've got x squared minus 12x plus 18, and I want you to make it equal to 0. Now remember that we just want your a and b term all by itself on one side of the equal sign. So we got to get 18 to the other side by subtracting it. Okay, so what you're going to do is you've got x squared minus 12x plus your c value, and we've got to put the c value on the other side. Now 0 minus 18 is negative 18, and then we have to add that c value again. Now what we're going to do is we still have to find the c value. We're going to take negative 12 divided by 2. We've got to square that. So negative 12 divided by 2, please make sure that you're showing this step. Negative 6 squared is 36. So we're adding 36 to both sides of the equal sign. When we're writing the next part as a perfect, or as a binomial squared, we've got x, and we are going to figure out what multiplies to give us 36 and adds to give us negative 12. And remember, it's always this number here. So since the 6 was negative, it's x minus 6 equals negative 18 plus 36 is 18. Now before, on the last lesson, we had to solve. So remember, when we solved, we got 2 different answers. Well, on this example, we don't want to solve. We just want to write in vertex form, and then we want to identify the vertex. So when we write this in vertex form, what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you vertex form. Y equals a x minus h squared. Okay, I wrote this just like that because I'm hoping you can kind of see what's going on here, plus k. Now, the one weird thing that has happened is that this 18 is on the other side. That 18 is going to be your k, but you got to be careful with the sign. We have to bring that 18 over by subtracting 18 on both sides. Okay, so we're going to have x minus 6 squared. That doesn't get touched. That's our x minus h. And then we've got minus 18, because that 18 was brought over. Put a y equals on the front of that, and that is our equation in vertex form. Now, technically, your a is a 1. Okay, we don't need to show that, but they want us to identify the vertex. So remember, the vertex is hk. That h is the opposite of what's in the parentheses, so that's 6, and the k is what it is, so negative 18. That is your vertex. So you're going to put this in vertex form and then find the vertex. You will have to do that on the test. Okay, let's go to example 6. You will not have to do example 6 on a test, but I still want to show you just because it's important and you might see it again later on. Okay, so we've got the height y in feet of a baseball t seconds after it is hit. And it's modeled by the following function here. It says find the maximum height of the baseball. How long does it take the ball to hit the ground? So I want you to think about the parabola here. First of all, our a value is negative, so it's not going to be holding water. It's upside down. And I want you to think about how a ball travels. What you're going to do is you're going to take your function, and remember, we've got negative 16 t squared plus 96 t plus 3, and we're going to set it equal to 0. We got to get that 3 out of there by subtracting it on both sides of the equal sign. So what you're going to do is you're going to rewrite this. We've got negative 16t squared plus 96t. We've got to complete the square, so we're taking negative 3 and we're adding c to both sides of the equal sign. Now, before we do that, I want you to look at taking that 16 out of there. So if we were to factor this negative 16 out, we can factor it out of this whole thing. We want to factor negative 16 out. So that will leave us with t squared. 96 divided by 16 is, 96 divided by negative 16 is negative 6. We still have plus our c. We're going to leave those parentheses like that. And then we have negative 3 plus. It's not technically going to be just the c on the other side. So this makes it a little bit easier. Let's look at this inside the parentheses and complete the square. So we have negative 6 divided by 2. Square it. That gives us negative 3 squared is 9. Now, when we put 9 here, 9 is technically going to be multiplied by negative 16, and that's what's going to be added on this side of the equal sign. When so it's kind of like PEMDAS, or order of operations, okay? So you have to take 9 times negative 16, which gives us negative 144. Okay. When we write our square binomial, once again, what multiplies to give us 9 adds to give us negative 6 is t minus 3 squared, but you got to keep this 16 out front, this negative 16 out front. Okay, equals negative 3 plus negative 144 is negative 147. Now let's talk about this. The easiest way to do this is to get that vertex form. So we got to bring this 147 over to the other side. So we've got y equals negative 16 t minus 3 squared plus 147. The vertex is 3, 147. Now think about that. I'm going to draw the parabola down here by this point. Here's our parabola, okay? You're imagining that the ball is hitting the ground over here. Our vertex is 3, 147. The maximum height is 147 feet. Okay, the maximum height, but it says how long does it take the ball to hit the ground? Well, from here to the axis of symmetry is 3 seconds. So to actually, that's to reach its highest point. That's half the time. So to actually hit the ground, it takes 6 seconds.